Students, so in this video we'll be solving the MCQs of chapter number 1, that is electric charge and electric field. The MCQs are directly not given in your textbook. So in the board examinations the questions are being asked as the lines of the textbook or small exercise and small illustrations will be asked in the form of MCQs. Okay, so let us solve few questions, few MCQs of this chapter. The basic one, first one, charge on glass rod or cat spur is dash and that on the plastic rod or silk cloth is termed as dash. So charge on glass rod or cat spur is always positive and charge on plastic rod or silk cloth will be taken as negative. Got it? So positive and negative. That means glass rod and cat spur is always positively charged. Plastic rod or silk cloth is negatively charged. Clear? Fine. The next one. Again, this is from your textbook. How many electrons are there in a charge of -1 coulomb? Probably this was asked in the board exam. So to calculate the number of electrons in a charge of -1 coulomb. So we can use the formula quantization of charge Q equals to NE, right? So Q is equals to -1 coulomb and this is what we are supposed to calculate. Charge of one electron is -1.6 into 10 raised to -19. So automatically N will be equals to 1 upon 1.6 into 10 raised to -19. Clear? 1 by 1.6, so it will be nearly 0.6 into 10 raised to 19, or you can say 6 into 10 raised to 18 number of electrons are there in a charge of -1 coulomb. So this is your option. Clear? Done? Fine. The next one. Third one, if a body contains N1 electrons and N2 protons, then what will be the total charge on the body? Body is having N1 number of electrons and N2 number of protons. Okay, so magnitude wise charge on proton is equals to charge on electron. So again we can use the rule of quantization, that is it contains N1 electrons, so charge will be N1 into -e, plus it contains N2 protons, so charge of proton and electron are equal in magnitude, just proton is positively charged and electron is equally negatively charged. So this will be equals to -N1e plus N2e. This can be written as N2 minus N1 and E can be taken common. So this will be the total charge on the body. So this is your correct option. Clear? So C is the correct option. Fine. The next one. Okay, this is second example of your textbook. See what the question says. If 10 raised to 9 electrons move out of a body to another body every second. So in 1 second, 10 raised to 9 electrons are moving from one body to another body. How much time is required to get a charge of 1 coulomb on another body? Okay. See, the question is saying that in a second, 10 raised to 9 electrons are moving from one body to another body. That means one body is losing electrons, right? And the body is losing 10 raised to 9 electrons in each and every second. So the body will gain positive charge. So in order to gain a charge of 1 coulomb, what time will be required? Question is clear, right? Let us say, suppose body A is losing electrons and these electrons are being transferred to B. So this will gain positive charge because it is losing electrons. So in order to establish a charge of 1 coulomb, what time is required? This is your question, right? And this is your example, second example of your textbook. Fine. See, first we'll calculate that how many electrons are there in a charge of 1 coulomb, right? With the help of quantization, Q equals to NE. Q is 1 coulomb and we don't know. So N is 1 upon 1.6 into 10 raised to -19. So N will be 6.25 into 10 raised to 18. Got it? So this many electrons are to be transferred from this body to another body in order to get a charge of 1 coulomb on this body. Clear? See, once again I'll make you the question very clear. It says that 10 raised to 9 electrons are coming out from one body to another. and we want, clear, and in order to establish a charge of 1 coulomb on this body, what time is required? This is the question. So first we'll calculate the number of electrons which are needed to be transferred from one body to another body in order to get a charge of 1 coulomb. So this many electrons are required, 6.25 to 10 raised to 18 electrons. When transferred from this body to another body, this will have a charge of 1 coulomb, right? So for transferring this amount of electrons from a body A to body B, what time is required? This is the question. Okay, so now we'll use 10 raised to 9 electrons are coming out in 1 second, right? So in order to remove 6.25 into 10 raised to 18 electrons, what is the time required? Got it? So cross multiply, T into 10 raised to 9 equals to 6.25 into 10 raised to 18. So T is equals to 6.25, this will be a 10 raised to 9. This is the time required to get a charge of 1 coulomb. 6.25 into 10 raised to 9. This is your answer, A option. Got it? Clear? The next one. Fifth one, which device did Coulomb used for measuring the force between two charged metallic sphere? Okay, Woodleaf electroscope? No, it is to detect the presence of electric charge. It is torsion balance. It's a very sensitive device which is used to measure the force between two objects. Cavendish also used this instrument to measure the gravitational force later on, but presently Coulomb used the torsion balance to measure the force between two charged metallic sphere. Clear? Done? Next one. Okay, sixth one, what is the net charge on the electric dipole? Dipole means arrangement of two equal and opposite charges. Two equal and opposite charges separated by any finite distance. This arrangement is termed as electric dipole. And as charge is a scalar quantity, so net charge on this dipole will be Q minus Q, that is 0. So net charge on the electric dipole will always be 0. Even though net charge is 0, but electric field may not be 0. Right? That means even though net charge on the dipole is 0, but if you have been told to calculate the electric field at this point P, so we'll get the value of electric field for a dipole, right? So it is not always compulsory that if charge is 0, electric field should also be 0, right? It is not possible every time. So in the case of dipole, the net charge is 0, but the net electric field is not 0. Got it? But presently we have been asked what is the net charge on the dipole, so that is 0. The next one. Okay, seventh one. At far away distance, electric field for a dipole falls off as, okay, this was again the question asked in the board exam. So electric field at far away distance is 2 kp by z cube along the axis, right? And electric field along the equator is minus kp by y cube. So in both the cases, you can see that electric field is inversely proportional to cube of the distance. It is inversely proportional to cube of the distance and not as 1 by r square. Right? Electric field is inversely proportional to 1 by r square, or electric field is inversely proportional to r square, that is for a point charge. But for a dipole at far away distance, electric field changes as 1 by r cube. Got it? Clear? The next one. Eighth one. What is the net force and torque acting on a dipole placed in a uniform electric field? Okay, so when a dipole is placed in a uniform electric field, force on positive charge is plus QE, force on negative charge is minus QE, right? Clear? That means net force is 0, and this will always remain 0. Right, when a dipole is placed in uniform electric field. Make it very clear, I have not written non-uniform, because if it is non-uniform, then force will not be 0. But presently, we have placed the dipole in a uniform electric field, and for a uniform electric field, net force on the dipole is 0, always. And torque, see, torque acting on a dipole is PE sin theta, okay. That means torque depends on angle. If theta is 0, of course torque will be 0. But if theta is not 0, if it is 30 degree, 45 degree, then torque will be acting on the dipole, right? So it is not always correct to say that torque is always 0. Torque may or may not be 0, it depends on the angle. But the net force acting on the dipole placed in an uniform electric field is always 0. So your options are, both are always 0? No. Force is always 0, torque may or may not be 0. This is correct. Both are non-zero always? No. Net force is 0. Force is non-zero and torque is 0? No. Force is 0 and torque may or may not be 0. So this is your correct option. Got it? Clear? The next one. Very easy question. What is the unit of surface charge density? See, we are having three densities. One is linear charge density, which is charge by length. Surface charge density, that is sigma. This is lambda. This is charge by area. And the third one is volume charge density, which is Q by V. This was a question asked in board exam. So for lambda, linear charge density, unit is coulomb per meter. For sigma, it is coulomb per meter square, and for rho, it is coulomb per meter cube. This is your volume charge density, this is surface charge density, this is linear charge density. So we are being told to calculate, to say the unit of surface charge density. So that is sigma, which is coulomb per meter square. This is the correct answer. Clear? Done. The next one. 10th one, what is the force between two small charged spheres having charges of 2 into 10 raised to minus 7 and 3 into 10 raised to minus 7 placed 30 centimeter apart in air? This is your first sum of exercise. Two charges, 2 into 10 raised to minus 7, 3 into 10 raised to minus 7. These are the two charges. They are placed at a distance of 30 centimeter, that is 0.3 meter. So we have been told to calculate the force between two charges. We can use Coulomb's law, because to calculate the force between two charges, we are having Coulomb's law, which is K, Q and Q2 by R square. K, which is 9 into 10 raised to 9. Q1, 2 into 10 raised to minus 7. Q2, 3 into 10 raised to minus 7 upon 0.3, so that is 3 into 10 raised to minus 1 the whole square. Okay, so this will be 9 into 10 raised to minus 14 plus 9, right? So that will be 10 raised to minus 5 into 6 upon 9 into 10 raised to minus 2. So this will be 6 into 10 raised to minus 3 Newton, and since both the charges are positive, so there will be repulsion, right? So your answer is 6 into 10 raised to minus 3 Newton. So C is the correct option. Okay, the next one. The electrostatic force on a small sphere of charge 0.4 microcoulomb due to another small sphere of charge minus 0.8 microcoulomb in air is 0.2 Newton. What is the distance between two spheres? Okay, so we can use Coulomb's law. Again, this is the question of your exercise. See, there are two charges. One is 0.4 microcoulomb, other is minus 0.8 microcoulomb. We have to calculate the distance between these two charges, and the force between them is 0.2 Newton, which is attractive, of course, because one is positive and another is negative. Okay, so using the formula, F is equals to K, Q1, Q2 by R square. So R square will be K, Q1, Q2 divided by F. So this is 9 into 10 raised to 9 Q1, that is 4 into 10 raised to minus 7. It is 0.4 microcoulomb, and this is minus 0.8, so it will be 8 into 10 raised to minus 7. Minus sign represents that the force is of attractive type. That's it. And force is 2 Newton, 0.2 Newton, so that is 2 into 10 raised to minus 1. Fine. Okay. So on solving this will be 4. Okay. So we'll make the power 16 into 9 into 10 raised to 9 minus 7, that is 2. 2 minus 7, minus 5. This will come up, so it will be plus 1, 2, minus 5, plus 1. So 10 raised to minus 4. Got it? So this is your r square. So r will be root of 16 into 9 into 10 raised to minus 4. So 4, 3, 12 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter. Or you can say 12 centimeter. Got it? Clear? The next one. A system has two charges QA 2.5 into 10 raised to minus 7 and QB minus 2.5 into 10 raised to minus 7 located at 0, 0, minus 15 and 0, 0, plus 15. So the arrangement is a dipole. You are having two equal charges and opposite in polarity, equal in magnitude, opposite in polarity. What are the total charge and dipole moment of the system? So total charge will remain 0 because charge is a scalar quantity, it can be added up directly. So total charge will be 0. Okay, and dipole moment. See, let us say the coordinates are x, y, z. So let us say this as z, this as y. Okay. So first charge is located at 0, 0, minus 15. So somewhere over here. This is 0, 0, minus 15. Okay. Charge is 2.5 into 10 raised to minus 7. And Q of B is located somewhere here. Minus 2.5 into 10 raised to minus 7. This is 0, 0, 15. Okay. So dipole moment is from negative to positive. This is the direction of dipole moment. Fine. And the distance between two charges is, this is minus 15, this is plus 15. So this will be, total will be 30 centimeter. Okay. Here. So dipole moment is defined as magnitude wise any one of the charge into distance between two charges. Distance between two charges. Fine. So magnitude wise any one of the charge. So that is 2.5 into 10 raised to minus 7 into distance between two charges, that is 30 centimeter. So that is 0.3 meter. So 25, 3, 0.75 into 10 raised to minus 7, or you can say 7.5 into 10 raised to minus 8 coulomb meter. This is the dipole moment. And yes, total charge will be 0. Got it? Clear? Dipole moment is magnitude wise any one of the charge into the distance between two charges. Fine? The next one. Next one, an electric dipole with dipole moment 4 into 10 raised to minus 9 coulomb meter is aligned at 30 degree with uniform electric field of magnitude 5 into 10 raised to 4. So dipole moment is given, angle is given, and electric field is given. You have to find the magnitude of torque. Okay, fine. So let us say dipole is placed this way. This is your uniform electric field. This is dipole moment. Let the angle between them is 30 degree. We have been told to calculate the magnitude of torque. So magnitude wise torque is PE sine theta. Okay, dipole moment is given as 4 into 10 raised to minus 9. Electric field is 5 into 10 raised to 4. Sine 30 degree, that is 1 by 2. Got it? So this will be 10 into 10 raised to minus 5. So this will be 10 raised to minus 4 Newton meter. Clear? So this will be the torque acting on a dipole. Fine. The next one. Point charge causes an electric flux of minus 1 into 10 raised to 3 through a spherical Gaussian surface of radius 10. That means through a spherical Gaussian surface of radius 10 centimeter, this flux is passing because of a point charge. Flux is negative, that means it is inward flux, incoming flux. Okay, if radius were doubled, how much flux would pass through the surface? Okay, say as per Gauss law, flux is sigma q by epsilon naught. Okay, that means flux through a Gaussian surface does not depend on radius, right? Flux does not depend on radius. If you are making the radius double, then flux passing through the Gaussian surface will remain same because flux is independent of radius, right? So through the radius of 20 centimeter, that means double of 10, flux of minus 1 into 10 raised to 3. The same flux will be passing through Gaussian surface of radius 20, as flux does not depend on radius. Got it? Clear? The next one. 15th one. An infinite line charge produces a field of 9 into 10 raised to 4 at a distance of 2 centimeter. Calculate the linear charge density. Okay. So electric field due to infinitely long charge wire is given 9 into 10 raised to 4, and distance is given 2 centimeter, that is 2 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter. You have been told to calculate linear charge density, that is lambda. Fine. So for an infinitely long charge wire, we are having the formula E is equals to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r, right? Or this can be written as 2 lambda upon 4 pi epsilon naught r. I have multiplied 2 and divided 2. So 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is k. So this will be 2k lambda by r. So we have been told to calculate lambda. So lambda will be E into r divided by 2 into k. Substitute the values. 9 into 10 raised to 4 r, that is 2 into 10 raised to minus 2 upon 2 into 9 into 10 raised to 9. 2 gets cancelled. 2 cancel, 9 cancel. So this will be 10 raised to 2 into 10 raised to minus 9. So that is 10 raised to minus 7 coulomb per meter. This is your linear charge density. Got it? We have just used the formula of linear charge density for an infinitely long wire, which is lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. Fine. So this were the sums, or you can say MCQs, which can be asked in your board examination. So in the next video, we'll be solving the MCQs or short questions of lesson number 2. Okay. Thank you.